Good morning and welcome to World Talks. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Is the long-awaited reset in Berlin political engine finally taking place? We turn our attention to Germany now, as the new Chancellor Friedrich Merz announces his first cabinet choices. By doing so, he highlighted clear themes: experience, party loyalty and business-minded leadership. The next government is expected to take office on May 6th. To discuss the new cabinet appointments, we are joined now by Andrzej Byrt, former Polish ambassador to Berlin and Paris, expert on the Polish-German relations. Good morning, Mr. Ambassador. Good to have you.
Good morning.
So I suggest we'll kick off with the latest statement by Chancellor Friedrich Merz. Here's what he had to say. Let's take a listen.
The CDU has not held the foreign ministry for almost 60 years. In the coalition with the SPD, we have agreed that we will now take over the foreign ministry again, and I am delighted that our previous deputy parliamentary group leader, Johann Wadepohl from the state of Schleswig-Holstein, who was responsible for foreign, security and European policy, is prepared to take on this task. I have decided to turn economic policy and the Ministry of Economic Affairs back into economic policy and the Ministry of Economic Affairs, which is why I am delighted that Katharina Reischer has agreed to take on this role. She is the first woman to hold this office in the history of the Federal Republic of Germany. Now, the person in the Chancellery who will take on the tasks of the head of the Federal Chancellery and Federal Minister for Special Tasks, I have decided to propose Thorsten Frey.
So rather a general question to kick off, how much do we know already about the next German coalition, especially with regard to key appointments and division of main portfolios?
The first step has been made by the announcement by the new would-be Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, the 10 posts which will be occupied by the major member of the future coalition, CDU, CSU and SPD, which is Christian Democrats and Social Democrats. So 10 places reserved for the Christian and Social Democrats. We know the personalities which will take the necessary responsibilities. All of them are specialists in their branches, in the field in which they will be acting. Particularly interesting change is the one which has been announced for a few seconds, and namely that the post of Minister of Foreign Affairs in Germany, which usually had been taken by another smaller member, minor member of the coalition. In the past, they were either Free Democrats, which had very many coalitions with Christian Democrats, or when there had been big coalition like today, with Social Democrats, they were occupied by the Social Democrats or the Green. This time, Merz has decided to take the responsibility for foreign affairs exactly in the hands of a respectful member of the CDU, major member of these two bilateral Christian Democratic coalition within the Germany. And then it's an important change, and it's connected with the fact that now, for the first time, we are facing, and the largest country in the European Union is facing as well, the great tragedy behind our Polish eastern border, that is the aggression of Russians on Ukraine. And therefore, the question, how, in what way Germany will behave in the necessary now discussion, negotiations with both European partners and then Ukrainians, and would be maybe also, that's the reason we'd like to look at it, when we join, which means Europeans, join the Americans in the negotiations between Russians and Ukrainians, the voice of the Germany should be well formulated and should be decisive. We remember the last final days, but also weeks and months of the Olaf Scholz coalition, when the decision what to deliver, whether to help and not, were delayed and not supported by a number of European partners. Now, Johann Wadepohl which is not only the expert in international affairs, and in such a role he played, he was supporting Friedrich Merz in his official announcements that Germany will support firmly and with all means available against Russian aggressors. It is very important change on the political scene in Germany.
Exactly. One could expect that Merz, Vadeful, Pistorius would be a different trio than Scholz, Baerbock, Pistorius, right? There were previously disagreements between the foreign minister Annalena Baerbock and Chancellor Scholz. Here, do you expect a full cooperation, and how would that impact a new dynamic for this Minister for Foreign Affairs, Chancellor and Minister for Defense in Germany right now?
Yes, I think there will be exactly the major point would be good cooperation, and it will happen. We have to remember that Johannes Vadeful has already expressed his opinions what the aid of Germany vis-à-vis Ukraine is concerned. He namely said that he does not exclude, and on the contrary, he is in favor of the delivery of the German long-range missiles to Ukrainian defenders. It's a basic change as compared with the government of Scholz. The same thing will be connected with probably good cooperation with future Ministry of Defense. We have to remember that today's coalition should count 16 ministers. Now we know the candidates for 10 ministers, which have been reserved for the coalition of CDU-CSU. Now we have to wait a few days for the final announcement of candidates from the SPD. And probably that will be the major point. And still, as announced, the vote for Friedrich Merz as a Bundeschancellor will take place on Tuesday, 6th of May. So, and if it happens, and it will probably, then the new government will be will enter into its functions exactly plus minus in 7 days. But still, the open question is who will be appointed for different ministry from the side of the minor partner of CDU-CSU, which is SPD, Social Democrats of Germany. They've decided to announce their appointed ministers in a few days' time.
So, as foreign policy will be the dominant themes of the next months, let's turn now to the transatlantic dynamic. So, I'd like to ask you about the possible realignment of Friedrich Merz with the Republicans. What can we expect here? And with regard to the US policy, how is it going to be shaped here in Europe?
We have to remember that Friedrich Merz had worked for a number of years when he left the coalition of Angela Merkel. He was connected with one of the American industrial groups and financial groups, and therefore during his operations led by him in Germany, he have accumulated enough knowledge, I think, and also good contacts within the Republicans in the United States. Therefore, I'm sure that, of course, the policy will be assertive. Germany will represent, as everybody does, its own interests. But I think the language will be, I'm sure, more decisive and also, but not aggressive. Probably he'll be trying to cooperate with Republicans in a way which will respect the interests of both sides, but also probably he'll be trying to convince Americans what kind of, I wouldn't call them errors, but nonetheless, what kind of neglections have been made and which gave an extra assets to Vladimir Putin. So we have we have been sure that there will be a much tougher dialogue with Americans, but also respecting interests of both sides. This probably will serve our path to peace between Russia and Ukraine, with a much more active role of the European Union, and within that also of Germany.
Speaking of European Union, Friedrich Merz and Ursula von der Leyen are not exactly to be friends, to put it mildly. So how will they cooperate?
Angela Merkel is a retired Bundes-Chancellor, and therefore she will be probably, to a certain extent, commenting the policy and actions of the Friedrich Merz government. But I don't expect any quarrels between her and him, although in the past there was quite a tough, a number of tough discussions took place, but this probably will not be the major element which could hamper or stop the policies of Friedrich Merz government vis-à-vis European partners, Americans, or Ukrainians and Russians.
And who are going to be the main partners in Europe? Do you expect a shift towards Poland? Can we expect a new opening in German-Polish relations?
They will be changed. I think there will be much better tone of and much more understanding between both leaders of Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk and Friedrich Merz. They know, of course, one another because during Donald Trump activity within the European Commission, he had to several occasions to talk with him and to know his attitudes vis-à-vis particularly the war, the aggression of Russians on Ukraine, but also his, I would say, a very pragmatic role, a much more pragmatic role vis-à-vis business, all the necessary industrial policies which will serve the development of Germany, but also will serve the necessary strengthening of the European military power, particularly vis-à-vis what the events which happened after the aggression of Russians on Ukraine. He decided, Friedrich Merz, among others, to create a special ministry devoted to digitalization of German economy, which that was is a product of the, I would say, of not necessary investment in the past. And in this field, for instance, the German economy has to catch up with leading European partners. If we, for instance, compare the different industries, Germany has remained, unfortunately, in the backyard, and therefore now they will have to speed up the necessary transformation. Also, which is very interesting, the same minister, his name is Wildberger. He was the chief of the large German companies like Saturn, electronic companies of Germany, producing and selling electronic products to general population. He has made quite positive steps within his, so to say, economic activities, and therefore the new chancellor expects him also to revive the digitalization of German economy, and therefore also prepare it for challenges which are awaiting major economic partners worldwide.
Exactly. Challenges exist not only on the international front, but also domestically as far as economy, German economy is concerned. But this is a subject for another conversation. Thank you so much. Andrzej Byrt, Polish ambassador to Berlin and Paris, was our guest this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador. And thank you for watching World Talks. Stay tuned to TVP World for more features to come.